This seat cost you $12. Before the lights went down, the studio took half, $6.18 of it. Then you bought popcorn, and the popcorn made more money than the film. Not more revenue, more profit, and you are buying the whole building. Last quarter, the biggest chain on earth had its best ever. 106 years. It still lost money. Real numbers, real sources. So you bought a cinema. 6 screens, a car park, and a lobby. Real one. The seats are not the product. The first thing a modern owner does with a room like this is throw the seats away. Not a few of them. Most of them. A recliner conversion pulls out between half and 70% of the chairs. For every 100 seats, 30 to 50 survive. And the theaters that did it did not get quieter. They got busier. Attendance at converted locations rose about 80%. Box office, more than 60%. Fewer seats, more money. That is not a trick. It works because this industry has been shrinking into a smaller room for 20 years. The peak was 2002. $16.4 billion of tickets in today's money. Last year, a little over 9. Same country, twice the population's worth of screens. AMC put $600 million into reseating its rooms, starting in 2014. Which leaves the obvious question. Why does that work? Because one screen in the biggest chain in the world sells about 82 tickets a day. Not per showing. Per screen, across every showing of the day. So the room you just bought is mostly empty, almost all of the time. And that is not the crisis. That is the business. Americans bought about 2 cinema tickets each last year. In 2019, it was 3.3. 769 million tickets across the United States and Canada, spread across 31,000 screens in the United States and Canada. The average ticket went up 4% last year to $11.14. Just over half of American adults went to a cinema at all last year. 7% have never been to one in their lives. So you are not selling seats. You never were. Rule 2. Follow the $8. Every person who walks past this counter spends, on average, $8.08. The kernels, the oil, the bag, and the syrup cost the chain a fifth of that, which makes the counter an 81% margin business. There is no other room in the building like it. Which raises a fair question. Why not just put that money on the ticket instead? Because researchers who went through a chain's real books found the opposite is true. The people who will pay $8 for corn subsidize the seat for everybody else. Now do the same arithmetic on the ticket, and the whole industry rearranges itself. $12.11 comes in. $6.18 leaves for the studio. You keep $5.93. Now the popcorn. $8.08 in, $1.51 out. The snack beats the film. Every quarter, on the same customer. That is why the lobby keeps getting bigger and the auditorium keeps getting smaller. The film is the reason people come. The counter is the reason you survive. Food and drink is 36% of everything AMC takes in. A cinema chain is a restaurant with a very expensive dining room. And here is why the counter can charge that. The room costs the same whether you come or not. Every extra person is almost pure profit. So the pricing is built around them, not the film. Cinemark, the healthier one, takes $6.80 a head. And it just posted the first billion-dollar quarter in its history. 1.5 million of its customers pay a monthly subscription to come back. Because the trick is not selling a ticket. It is selling the next one. Which brings us to the part of the business you do not actually control. Rule 3. You are renting somebody else's movie. You do not own a single frame of anything you show. You rent all of it, one film at a time. 51% of everything the box office takes goes straight back out. $440 million in a single quarter on one chain's films. And the number is not fixed. It is negotiated film by film. An independent house pays anywhere from a quarter to 60% of the gate. And before any of that, your own weekly running cost comes off the top. The trade calls it the house nut. Agree it too low and you work a whole week for the distributor. Then the percentage falls every week the film stays up. So week 4 is your good week. Week 4 is also the week the studio wants it on streaming. For 70 years, a film belonged to cinemas for 90 days. That collapsed to about 17. The studios have pushed it back out to 45. Universal goes to 7 weekends in 2027. But of the films studied this year, just over 40% were gone in 25 days or less. You are a shop whose supplier decides how long you may sell the goods. And here is the part almost nobody knows, because it stopped being true very recently. For 72 years, this was illegal. From 1948, an American film studio was not allowed to own a movie theater. At all. The Paramount decrees. They broke the studio system apart. They also banned block booking. Taking one film you wanted meant taking 5 you did not. On the 7th of August, 2020, a federal judge ended them. 72 years of separation, gone in one ruling. For years later, Sony bought Alamo Drafthouse. 35 cinemas, owned by a studio. The first time in more than 75 years. Netflix had already bought 2 landmark cinemas of its own before the rules even changed. Even the adverts before your film belonged to somebody else. That business sold $240 million of them. So the wall between the people who make the films and the people who show them is simply gone. Reel 4. What it costs to open the doors. Say you want the smallest possible version of this. One screen in a building somebody else owns. $500,000 to $2 million before you sell a ticket. The projector and the sound alone are $75,000 to $150,000 per room. A premium large format screen is closer to $375,000 in equipment. And the cheapest way in is the one nobody romanticizes. Buy a cinema that already failed. A brand new build with recliners, laser projection, and a kitchen runs to $25 million. Then the meter starts, and it does not care how many people came. Rent, on the biggest chain in the world, runs about $94,000 a year. Per screen, $224 million of rent in 3 months. Elise does not care how the weekend went. It is the one contract you cannot renegotiate on a bad month. Then staff, power, cleaning, and everything else. $6.43 a head. So follow one visitor all the way through. $22.40 arrives with them. That last $2 is mostly the adverts you sat through before the trailers, which, as we just saw, is not really yours to price either. And the building never stops asking. North American cinemas spent $1.5 billion on themselves last year. $920 million of that came from just 8 companies. Recliners, laser projectors, new counters. None of it optional, all of it borrowed. Reel 5. It is never the box office that kills you. When a cinema chain dies, almost nobody stopped going. Look at what actually happened. In 2020, these buildings were ordered shut, and the revenue went to zero for a year. Nobody survived that on savings. They survived it on borrowing. In September 2022, the second biggest cinema company on earth filed for bankruptcy. It was carrying $8.9 billion of net debt. Its cinemas never closed. Not one showing was canceled. The films kept playing. The popcorn kept selling. The company failed anyway. The restructuring wiped $4.5 billion of debt by handing the lenders the company. The owners lost everything. The audience never noticed. It took nearly $2 billion of emergency lending just to keep the doors open while it happened. Remember the company that sells the adverts before your film? It went bankrupt too. The whole chain of this business runs on borrowed money, which finally explains the sentence we opened with 400 seconds ago. Record revenue, $1.6 billion in 3 months. The best in 106 years. Record profit before the financing, too. $321 million. And the bottom line was still negative. A loss of $11.4 million. Because $3.9 billion of debt has to be paid before anything is profit. The rooms work. The films work. The counter works. The financing does not. And its nearest rival, on the same films and the same margins, is profitable. AMC has paid down $1.7 billion since 2020, and it is still not enough. The difference between the two is not the movies. It is what they owe. Reel 6. So why would anyone still want one? If you have got this far, the like button genuinely helps this channel. It is free. Because here is the thing the doom stories keep missing. This year is the best since the pandemic. $5.6 billion of tickets by early August. One film opened to $355 million in a weekend. The first $10 billion year since 2019 is genuinely in reach. And the audience growing fastest is the one everybody wrote off. Under 30, up 25%. 6.1 visits a year each, up from 4.9. It is why a studio bought a chain, and why the industry keeps putting money back in the walls. Nobody spends $1.5 billion on a business they think is finished. 200 million Americans still went at least once. That is a lot of dark rooms. Habitual moviegoers, the ones who go 6 times a year or more, grew 8%. Subscriptions across North America were up 15% in a year. You cannot pause it. You cannot look at your phone. That turns out to be the product. If this arithmetic is your kind of thing, I ran the same numbers on a stadium. And on a restaurant with a Michelin star. Both are on the channel. Real numbers, real sources. Marked up, $12.11. 6 of it was never yours.